Hello, so in this video we'll talk about the for loop after talking about while loop and do while in the previous video. So the for loop is like we can make a counter inside the for parentheses. So we write for, here we write initialization, semicolon, we write the test, semicolon, we write the update, and then we can have a statement, one statement, or a block of statement. We don't have semicolon after update, so we only have two semicolon in the header of the for loop. So it's working like this. The initialization, the for do the initialization first. After that, it tests the condition. If it's false, then it goes out of the loop. If it's true, then we do the statements, and after that we do update. We do the testing again, we do the statement, update, testing again, do the statement. So initialization is only done at the beginning. After that we test. Every time we get true, we do the statement and then update. So this is how it's working. Int count, for count equal to 1, and then we move to the condition, is 1 less than or equal 5, yes. So we print hello. Then we update, count will be 2. Is 2 less than or equal 5? Yes. We print hello, update, check, print, update, check, and so on. So this will print hello 5 times because it starts from 1. It will be true 5 times till 5. When count is 6, 6 is not less than or equal 5, and it goes out of the loop. So this is the flowchart. We start assigning 1 to count, and then we check the condition, we print, and then we increment, and so on. We do this 5 times till we get false, and we finish. So this is another example, but it's print from 1 to 10. For num equal to minimum number, num less than or equal maximum number, which is 10, num plus plus. So we'll print the number and the square of this number square. So it will print all the numbers and their squares from 1 to 10. So this is the flow chart for this. We start to assign it to 1, and then we check if it's less than 10 all the time. Every time we print this num and the square, and then increment and go this 10 times and then exit. So in any situation that clearly required initialization, false condition to stop the loop, and update, we will use just for. Okay, so in this situation, for is better than while or do while. So for is considered a pre-test loop because we test the condition before we go inside the for or in the block of the loop. So it's similar in this sense to while. So for count list equals 11, count is less than 10, here is false, so it will not go inside the block. So it's false from the first iteration. Okay, there are some small details about for. You can initialize more than one variable in this section. Before the semicolon, you make column and define 2 variables, but we rarely do that, but it's allowed to do that in C++. Also, we can update 2 variables if you want. In the update section, we make comma between them. Again, you rarely do that. Sometimes you can also omit the initialization. You can do the initialization outside the for and you make it empty. Again, we rarely do that. Usually we don't do that, but it's allowed. And sometimes you can declare the variable inside the for. So this num was never declared before. You declare it here, define it here, and give it initial value here. It's allowed. But in this case, the scope of this variable will be only inside the for loop. So you cannot outside the for loop try to use num. It's not allowed because you define it inside the for, so you can only use it inside the for. So keeping a running total, some programs we use running total, means we need to sum many numbers. For example, Here I want to sum the numbers from 1 to 10. You define sum equal to 0. You define num equal to 1. And while num less than or equal 10, you do sum equals sum plus num. You add these numbers to sum, and every time you update num, and at the end you update sum of numbers from 1 to 10, and you print this. So this is the running total. You make the sum to 0, and every time you read a number, and you can add it to the sum, and so on. So in the previous example, we saw how to sum the numbers from 1 to 10, but we can also get the input from the users. For example, in this example, we ask for days. We ask the user how many days you have sale figures. We ask the user to enter the days. After that, we make a loop from 1 till number of days that the user enter, and every time we add 1. And inside the loop, we ask to enter the sales for that day, and we add that to total. Total was initialized to be 0, and every time the user enter a sale, we add it to the sales inside the loop. So for example, we ask how many days you have sales, 5 days. So it will ask the user 5 times to enter a number, and at the end of the loop, after the loop, we will print the total of these numbers. Sometimes we work with something called Sentinels. Sentinels is a value that make the loop sign that I have to finish. So for example, in this example, we have to ask the user how many days you have to enter. So he tell us 5, and we ask the user 5 times to enter. Sometimes the user does not know in advance how many number he wanted to enter. So we don't ask him this question. We keep asking him numbers until he make -1. If he make -1, we know that he want to finish the loop, and we show the sum of the numbers. For example, here we ask the user enter the number of points your team earns so far in the season, then enter -1 when finished. So the first game we get 7 point, 9 point, 4 point, 6 point, 8 point. If the user write -1, this is a sign that he want to finish. Then we sum these numbers and print the sum. So let's see the code. So int game is equal to 1. This is the game counter. And we define points, and we define the total to be 0. We ask the user to enter points the team earned so far. Okay. So we ask user for input points. And then we print while points not equal to -1. We add this point in the total, we increase the game, and then we print asking for another points, and we ask for a point. Then we check if it's not equal to -1, we add it, and so on. So this is keeping adding the points until the user make -1. We will go outside the loop and print the total. So deciding which loop to use, we have while, do while, and for. So the while loop is a conditional pretest loop. It iterates as long as a certain condition exists. Normally it's good for validating input and reading lists or reading from file. This is good to use a while. Do while is more always iterate at once. It's suitable for repeating menu if you are making a menu program, so do while is good. For, it's nice because it's a pretest and it has built-in expression for initialization and testing and updating. We can use it in a situation where we know the number of iteration before. So if you know how many iteration you will do before, just use for. Yeah. Otherwise, you can just use while. But every situation where you can use while, you can use for, and the opposite. Every situation where you can use for, you can use while. But here it tells you which one is more suitable or something like this. So we have nested loop. Nested loop means we have loop inside the body of another loop. So we will have inner loop and outer loop. For example, here we have loop, for loop. It will iterate 3 times from 1 till 3. And inside every iteration of these loops, we have another loop that runs 3 times. So this runs 3 times. For each time of the outer loop, there are 3 inner loops. So this is how it's working. Another example, we have a number of students. We have a loop that goes over all the students. For every student, we want to compute the average for the tests. Imagine we have 10 students. For every student, we have 3 tests. So the outer loop will be 10. It will go 10 times. For every loop in the outer loop, we have 3 tests. So there is inner loop goes three times, and we can ask the user for the score, and we compute the total and so on. So inner loop goes through all repetition for each repetition of the outer loop, and inner loop repetition completes sooner than the outer loop. The total number of repetition for inner loop is a product of the number of repetition of the 2 loops. So if this loop goes 10 times and this loop goes 3 times, the total number of iterations of this loop is 30 times actually. So that's it for today, and see you next video.